What's up, you guys? I'm Dan. This is Frugal Not Cheap. Today we'll do my 2023 financial year in review. 2023 is in the books, and it's time to look back and see how I did on my spending, take a look at how that compares to my budget, and see if I need to adjust that budget or, more importantly, adjust any of my behaviors so that I can meet my goals better this year. Here's my spending for 2023, and as we can see, as a total, it came out to just around $40,000 a year. Using the 4% rule for early retirement based on something called the Trinity Study. More information about that in this video here and also linked in the description. Using that rule, it would require a $1 million portfolio in order to fund the $40,000 a year in spending for early retirement. Looking at my spending for 2023, it stands out that the three largest categories were easily rent, then also transportation, and then if we combine the groceries and the restaurants categories, then food is the other very large category. This is why a lot of the times you'll see that the advice in terms of personal finance can be first to focus on those big ticket items, being the housing and the transportation, in order to reduce your spend, and then of course keeping an eye on all the little stuff as well, but those two will be really impactful ones. My rent is expensive at over $1,800. However, this does include a private garage for my vehicle, which also includes then the electricity to run that vehicle, so that's pretty great. I really love it here and I have no plans to move, but of course if my situation ever changed or I wanted to accelerate my savings goals, then one of the first and easiest things I could do, of course, would be to find a cheaper place to live. If I could cut my rent down by $600, $700 a month, that would make a really big difference, of course. In terms of transportation, my vehicle is paid for. There's no car payment. However, the insurance is a lot more expensive when you have comprehensive coverage on an expensive vehicle like this versus if I just had collision on a $5,000 or $6,000 car or something. But anyway, let's take a closer look at my spending, and to put it in context, I think it makes sense to compare it to 2022. And then after that, we'll compare that to my budget for 2023. So my housing costs went up by $811 year over year. That's not really too bad. I expected some increase in rent. It ends up being about $68 a month, which is not terrible. I'm not expecting any huge rent increases next year either. The market does seem to have cooled off quite a bit here of late. Another place where I spent a lot more last year than in 2022 was in restaurants. My restaurant spending went up by $825 total. That's again about $70 a month, so definitely something that I'm going to be looking at here in 2024 and aiming to cut down. I did talk about doing that in 2023, but I don't know. It seems like a lot of the time what my friends want to do is go out to eat, so in order to kind of keep that social life going, then I am going out to eat a lot more than before. However, by far the biggest increase, as you can see in my spending year on year, was in the automotive category. Unfortunately, this had to do really not with regular running costs. I was in an accident back in May. There was a large deductible to be paid for that. And then later on in the year, not related to the accident, but when rotating my tires, we discovered a crack in one of the rims. And then they also, showed me where some of the rims were a little bit bent. So I just went ahead and replaced a total of 3 of the 4 wheels on the car. So that was pretty expensive. I'm not sure that it was all required. They may have kind of managed to kind of sell me into it. But hey, whatever. It's water under the bridge now. Got that done. And the ride is nice and smooth with all the new wheels. On the other hand, even though I spent more in terms of restaurants, rent, and automobile, there were a lot of categories where my spending did actually decline year on year. One of the big ones, unfortunately, was on dating. I just didn't have a lot of luck in terms of matches this year. And my entertainment budget also went down, just hosted fewer people here this past year, although I still did have a lot of fun. So I took a trip to Asia to visit my father in Thailand, and then we all went together to visit with my mother in Japan. My friend Grace also came to visit from New Hampshire, and we took a trip down to San Antonio. And then I also took a trip up to New Hampshire in December for the company Christmas party, and also got to meet up with some friends while I was there. So it was an active year. It was a really, really fun year. Maybe not so much on the dating side and on going to sort of events. That's really what my entertainment category is about. Things like going to the opera, which I'll be going to in just a few weeks here. Thank you to my friend Mike and his wife for that. We're going to see Electra, which should be a lot of fun. Another category where spending declined really quite a lot, of course, because those expenses were high in 2022 due to medical illness, was pets and pet care. Unfortunately, Max is no longer with us, so of course those costs went down to zero. I do miss him. He was really just the best. Anyway, so that's how my 2023 spending compared to 2022. Let's take a look now and see how I did against my budget for 2023. Here we can see a lot of it is pretty much the same sort of pattern. The automotive spending was way out of line because of, again, those unforeseen expenses. These are atypical. And then also that restaurant spending, which started to get out of whack in 2022 and continued to be out of whack in 2023. The other categories, though, did quite well. A lot of my spending really is kind of an autopilot. You know, I don't go out and go on crazy spending sprees or I don't know, change things a whole lot. So really most of my spending is on autopilot, and I'm pretty assured that I'm going to be somewhere around my budget without really having to put any mental thought into it, which is kind of nice. Actually, if we cut out the excess automotive spending, so if we cut that down to what my budget was, then my spending comes right down to about $36,000, and that's only $830 above budget, again above budget by that restaurant spending amount. That's not too bad. I do want to continue to enjoy eating out with friends, but I am going to try to limit the amount that I spend on that to some degree, because I've actually put on a little bit of weight, so it's probably not a bad plan if I end up eating a little bit less when I go out for those meals. So after looking at all this, I did make some tweaks to my budget here for 2024. Some of the categories like utilities were increased. Also, I think groceries to be more in line with my historical spending and what I think is achievable. But other categories, of course, went down, and so here we are overall. And that just under $37,000. Now again, $22,000 of that is just rent. So I think when we look at my non-rent spending, then it's actually really quite reasonable. And again, I'm really happy with where I'm living. Coming back to that 4% rule, this would require a portfolio of about $925,000 in order to fund. That's quite a lot. It's also, well, I'm also definitely spending a whole lot more than I used to spend back in New Hampshire. But at that time, my rent was closer to $850 a month. Anyway, I'm happy with how everything's going. I'm continuing to meet all of my financial goals on an annual basis. And so again, we're not going to see any huge changes to the budget for 2024. However, fingers crossed, hopefully in the future, we'll be able to cut these expenses quite drastically with a move to Thailand to retire early. How did you do against your budget for 2023? Do you have any financial New Year's resolutions for 2024? Let us know in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.